The bedroom door slammed so violently that the walls trembled, and the sound rolled through the house like thunder trapped indoors. Favor stood frozen in front of the mirror, unable to move, unable to breathe properly. Tears streamed down her cheeks in hot, endless lines, like a river that had burst its banks and refused to stop flowing. Her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, each one trembling, each one heavy with pain. Her hands shook as she stared at her reflection, at the woman she barely recognized anymore. Her eyes were swollen and red, her face rounder than it used to be, her shoulders slumped under a weight far heavier than flesh. Behind her, from the living room, Kelvin laughed. It was not a laugh filled with joy or warmth. It was sharp, dry, cruel, the kind of laugh that carried contempt, the kind that made the skin crawl. "You think anyone else would want you looking like that?" His voice rang out, loud and deliberate, loud enough for the neighbors to hear through the thin walls. "You're lucky I even let you stay in my house." Those words hung in the air, thick and poisonous. Favor felt them settle into her chest, heavy and suffocating. This wasn't just another argument. It wasn't one of those fights couples have and later apologize for. This night felt final, like something inside her had cracked beyond repair. What Kelvin didn't know, what he could never have imagined in his pride and cruelty, was that in exactly 3 weeks, the world he stood on so confidently would collapse beneath his feet. The man who mocked his wife's body would soon be the one kneeling in desperation. And Karma does not listen to excuses. Karma does not care about pride. Karma was already on its way. To understand how everything fell apart, we must return to the beginning, to a time when love still felt real and hope still lived in Favor's heart. 2 years earlier, Favor had been the most beautiful bride Lagos had seen in a long time. On her wedding day, she glowed with a quiet, powerful happiness. Her white gown fit her perfectly, hugging her slim figure as though it had been sewn by destiny itself. Her skin shone, her eyes sparkled, and her smile could soften even the hardest heart. As she walked down the church aisle, the air seemed to change. Even the older women, the ones who rarely praised anyone, leaned toward each other and whispered, "This girl is blessed." Kelvin stood at the altar, hardly believing what he was seeing. He was a manager at a big shipping company in Victoria Island, respected, well paid, admired. He had money, status, confidence. And now he had Favor, the woman every man in that church secretly wished was walking toward them instead. At the reception, he held her hand tightly, proudly, as if afraid someone might take her away. "I'm the luckiest man alive," he told his friends, laughing. "Just look at my wife." Favor smiled, her heart swelling with love. She believed with everything in her that they would grow old together, that love would protect them from life's storms. She believed marriage meant safety. She believed wrong. The change did not come suddenly. It arrived quietly, almost politely. 6 months into the marriage, Favor noticed small changes in her body. A dress that once slid on easily now clung uncomfortably. A skirt refused to zip. At first, she laughed it off. 5 pounds, she told herself, was nothing. Then 10, then more. She exercised, she skipped meals. She blamed stress, but the weight kept coming, stubborn and unexplained. What Favor didn't know was that something deep inside her body was malfunctioning. Her hormones were fighting her. Her body was working against her. The truth would come later. Kelvin, however, had no patience for unseen battles. One morning at breakfast, Kelvin looked at her plate and smirked. "Are you eating for 3 people now?" he asked, pretending it was a joke. Favor froze, then slowly put down her fork. "I'm trying, baby. I really am." Kelvin picked up his car keys. "Try harder," he replied. "I didn't marry a big woman. I married a beautiful woman. Don't forget that." Those words stayed with Favor long after the sound of the door faded. Still, she told herself it would get better. She blamed his stress. She protected his image in her heart. By their first anniversary, Favor had gained 40 pounds. Her body had changed in ways she couldn't control. Kelvin stopped touching her. He stopped complimenting her. Slowly, he stopped seeing her as his wife at all. Cruelty became routine. Kelvin criticized what she ate, how she dressed, how she walked. He mocked her laugh. He made jokes at her expense in front of others. Each word chipped away at her confidence until she barely recognized herself. He slept in the guest room. He came home late. He stopped coming home at all. Gossip spread. Whispers followed Favor everywhere. She shrank inside herself, carrying shame that wasn't hers to carry. One night, when Kelvin came home smelling of another woman's perfume, something inside Favor finally gave way. "Where were you?" she asked quietly. Away from you." When she begged him to talk, he exploded. "You think any man wants this?" he shouted, pointing at her body like it was something dirty. That night, Favor cried until her chest hurt, and the nights after were no different. Her body eventually gave up. One afternoon, she collapsed in the kitchen. When she woke up in the hospital, a doctor sat beside her and spoke gently. "You have PCOS," he said. "This isn't your fault." For the first time in months, Favor felt relief instead of shame. She finally had a name for her pain. Kelvin arrived hours later. When she told him, hope flickered in her chest. Maybe now he would understand. Instead, he crossed his arms. "So now you have an excuse," he said. Something died inside Favor. "I want a divorce," she said quietly. Kelvin smiled. "Good." He walked out. In the parking lot, a sharp pain pierced his chest. He ignored it. He shouldn't have. 3 weeks later, his world collapsed. He lost his job, his money, his girlfriend, his home. Everyone disappeared. The man who mocked was now mocked by life itself. When he finally saw Favor again months later, she was healing, peaceful, strong. He begged, she refused. "I forgave you," she said, "but I won't return to pain." Kelvin lived with regret. Favor lived with freedom. And the lesson remained, heavy and undeniable. Karma does not forget. Karma does not rush, but when it arrives, it teaches the hardest lessons of all.